Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this special edition of the Wrestle Buddy podcast. The wrestling world has exploded today, so we had to talk about this.
Everything's on fire.
I'm joined today by two fantastic panelists. I'm joined by the king of wrestling himself, Jimmy Bay. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, barring what's happening here. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good for now. We'll see what happens over the next 12 hours.
And I'm joined by the quizmaster himself, Matty. Matty, how are you doing?
Like I said, we're running out of water. People are throwing milk on the fire. We're trying our best to put things down.
I should stop saying being hydrated. You're going to probably need this for the AEW locker room, huh?
More than likely. But before we get down to business, gentlemen, today we are sponsored, believe it or not, which is an amazing news for us. Yes, we are. So, Matty, would you like to tell the people about our sponsor?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you to our sponsor, RevMasters Bet US, your go-to for sports betting and casino gambling. Use the link in our description to get not 50%, not 75%, but a 125% bonus to get your betting started. 100% going towards sports betting, 25% going towards casino gambling. Bet on us with Bet US RevMasters. Huge thanks to our sponsor. Let's get on with the show.
Brilliant. And remember, gamble responsibly. Right, gents, there's only one thing we're here to talk about. AEW is currently burning down from within. For the few people who were living under a rock the last few days, at the press conference following All Out, CM Punk effectively exploded after he was asked a question about Colt Cabana, and then went on a 15-minute tirade against Hangman Adam Page, the Elite, Kenny Omega. I'm surprised he didn't take any jabs at Tony Khan, considering he was sat there. This, to me, is the grossest example of unprofessionalism in professional wrestling in years. From what Punk said at the press conference, he should never have said that at the time. Admittedly, he didn't tell any lies, but behind closed doors probably would have been a better option. Jimmy, I'm sure you've got a lot to say on this, man. Like, what do you think about what Punk said, the way that Bucks reacted, the whole fight and all?
I'm just going to respond by asking some questions.
Okay.
So, remember the weekends that happened before the MJF pipe bomb, in which it was supposed to be Wardlow's moment?
Yes.
And so the first question I'll ask is, do we believe MJF that was a shoot or that was storyline? Like it was started as a shoot that they turned into a storyline, or do you think it was storyline the whole time?
I think it was a little bit from column A and a little bit from column B. I think he was okayed to do a promo and then thought, okay, I'm going to air some of my grievances here.
Well, I'm talking about the whole stuff prior to that, the weekend. Where he skipped the Fan Fest and the whole Wardlow match and all that got like just completely overshadowed by his unprofessionalism.
I would say that's possibly a work, just because of the way the whole thing, just because of the way it fell into place at the end. But there is a good chance, like a good 40% chance that it was real.
A work turned shoot.
Because if you listen to Wardlow, he did an out of character interview after that.
He didn't seem happy.
And he was asked about it, and he's like, I was mad. It took away from everything that we had built up to that point, and it made it all about him.
So because one of the problems people have here is that Punk's actions have overshadowed MJF's return. But if we look back, MJF did those actions that overshadowed Wardlow's big moment. Then he came back. He dropped the pipe bomb on Wednesday, and we didn't see him again for a while. Was MJF saying anything in that promo that, one, was a lie, or two, was significantly different than some of the things that CM Punk was saying at the drum?
Not really. It was just he was more directed at Tony Khan rather than the EVPs.
But EVPs were mentioned there.
Yes,
and
they
how
were.
It was a shit show.
Yes,
Okay.
they were.
One is applauded. One is booed out of the fucking building.
Mm-hmm.
Hypocrisy personified.
Yeah, there we go. Two, about 10, 11 months ago, there was another, I would say, a person that's going to speak up when he sees grievances. Cody Rhodes, who was a EVP. And 11 months ago, there was news that him and the other EVPs weren't getting along very well.
Yes, there was.
He ends up leaving. And it was all like, why did he leave? Here we are a year later, and now CM Punk is having grievances with the EVPs. He's taking a different approach.
That's true.
So,
That's different.
I'm not saying that if we're looking at issues, I think you got to look at common denominators here. And the common denominator, I know everyone wants to point the finger because it's so easy to point the finger at the villain, CM Punk. Everyone hates him because he did this and he did that with half of a story. But I think if we look at a common denominator here, there's a different villain. But because they don't have that reputation, it's a little bit easier to give them a pass and be like, nope, he's the problem. Yeah. And that's where I'm looking at this being like, it's kind of messed up.
Now, I will say to Jimmy's point, that is a thing that a lot of people are trying to use against Punk on Twitter as well, is saying that, you know, he had his issues in WWE, he had his issues with Triple H, and that ended up with him leaving WWE. And now they're seeing this in AEW, and they're trying to pin it on Punk as he's, you know, the common denominator, as Jimmy was saying with the EVPs.
I will say though, the big difference between how Punk's issues were handled in WWE was very professional. Most of it was done behind the scenes. Yes, there were certain things leaked, so on and so forth, but for the most part, it was all handled behind the scenes very professionally and then folded into a storyline.
Okay,
this is not
just to touch on that part. This all started when Hangman supposedly went into business for himself and pissed off CM Punk. From what I've understood and heard and read, CM Punk just said, hey, I think I deserve an apology here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was never given.
Yeah.
So if he tried to do it the right way and they just blew it out, like, he doesn't owe you an apology. I don't think you push his buttons. I think there's very few people you're going to push their buttons and not expect or expect blowback on. He's one of those guys. You better expect blowback if you're basically just saying poking the bear. You just, and that's what's, I guess, the part that's bothering me, because everyone knows I love CM Punk, love him to death, and I'm not saying he is 100% innocent here. There are issues that he helped cause, but if he went and aired his grievance backstage, like people were saying, is the professional way to do it, and it was just pushed aside and like, nope. What's he supposed to do? Just bow down like everyone else and be like, well, you know, there's nothing I can do about it.
And that's the side that I've been heavily supporting.
Yeah.
There's no word on if, you know, Punk went back there. There's a good possibility that Punk tried to handle this professionally backstage and was completely blown over. Well, what else are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
The thing is, if you look at the AEW locker room, there's been a clear divide for a good few months now, because you see all the backstage pictures of everybody. There's a group, there's Moxley, CM Punk, FTR, and their lot. And then there's the Elite and their lot on the other side. There's two very different wrestling mentalities, and that's going to collide at some point, especially when the guys on one side have been in the business for a very long time.
You can say generations. You can say generations.
Yeah, for generations they've been in the business, and it's a case of if the younger guys, like Punk said in that promo, are turning around and going, "Oh, I don't need your advice," or "I don't want to talk to you," or "I'm going to treat you with any kind of disrespect," then why is anyone on that side of the locker room going to take your side? It's just not going to work. As I said before, I truly believe that it was unprofessional of CM Punk to air it in front of the live crowd. But as you say, Jimmy, if he'd already attempted to solve this problem backstage, then what else was he supposed to do?
Is he just supposed to fall in line and just play nice like everyone else and then end up being like depressed because he's just having to like deal with shit and he can't, like, I say this all the time because everyone always gives people shit for like him quitting WWE. If your job treats you like shit, leave. Like,
yeah, why are you there? Why are you there if you don't want to be there?
Hell out of there.
Especially when you find out like a month later, like you can't blame him at all when he finds out that they basically overlooked an injury that he had or an infection that he had that could have killed him. Like for him to walk out because he begged, he's like, I need somebody to help me right now. And they're like, you're fine. There's nothing we can do right now because it's a Royal Rumble and they don't want to call. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. So and I hate to bring this even up because it's not what we're here for, but just to touch on what Maddie was saying, like he had these problems in WWE and he left and there was a problem, but he legit had reasons for leaving.
Yeah,
people just want to
very good reasons.
They want to overlook it, but no, if your job's treating you like shit, don't stay. And if they're jeopardizing your health, there's no question here who the bad guy is.
And to that point perfectly, like he had those issues in WWE, he aired them. He had those issues in AEW, and he's aired them. What's going to happen next? Like, where do things go next? And it's not looking good.
Well, the fact is, move on a bit from Punk, and we'll have a look at the other side of things. The report states that after CM Punk went back to his locker room, Matt and Nick Jackson booted his door in, and Matt Jackson came in and took a swing at him. Now, you're supposed to be an executive vice president of one of the largest wrestling companies on the planet. It doesn't matter if someone has hurt your feelings or if they've insulted you. You are supposed to handle this like a professional, turn around and say, right, Phil, Punk, whatever you want to call him, we need to talk. We'll have a meeting on whatever date. We'll sort all this out. We'll sit down and we'll hash these problems out.
With cooler heads.
With cooler heads. You do not kick a man's door down and then swing on him.
You don't come at hostility with more hostility. You're asking for an explosion.
Exactly. It's just going to escalate the situation. Then from then, it's reported that Kenny Omega and Ace Steel forced their way into the locker room.
Yeah, that makes me laugh because I'm a very visual person. I'm imagining the Bucks are already arguing with Punk, and then you've got Omega and Steel just going at it.
In my head, they're stuck in the door trying to push the way through. But then Ace Steel reportedly has thrown a chair at Nick Jackson's head, and now Nick Jackson has a black eye and a rumored injury to his orbital bone.
To be fair, Matt Jackson posted on his Snapchat the next day with his dog. I didn't see any black eye or anything. He looked fine.
But it was Nick Jackson that got hit by the chair.
It was Nick
okay. I get it.
According to reports.
After seeing all of this, it has been reported later on today that, now make sure I get this list right, Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Christopher Daniels, Pat Buck,
Brandon Cutler,
thank
Nakazawa.
you, and Michael Nakazawa have all been suspended pending an investigation. The interesting thing about this is CM Punk's name is not on that list, and instead there was an addendum that stated the CM Punk's future with the company will be determined by Wednesday night. Sorry to move this on to a bit of a kayfabe, gentlemen, but a certain someone returned on Sunday, and a certain someone is on his way to Buffalo, and I imagine has already landed, so we'll be hearing from him tonight. Do you think if this situation has escalated as far as it appears to have gone, and maybe the rumors of Punk being out of there are true, do you see the possibility, Matty, of Punk dropping that belt tonight to MJF in some kind of snafu?
I was talking with a friend on Twitter earlier, and I was wondering what they would do if they did strip Punk. Hopefully it's not a tournament, but the only thing that logically makes...
a tournament, baby.
It's always a tournament, man.
The only logical thing that works here is, one, we get Moxley versus MJF for the title. Two, and this is just my own headcanon booking, we could do something with the TNT title, as the fans have already kind of soured on Wardlow's TNT title reign. Have him drop the title in order to cash in for the world title, and then have MJF versus Wardlow one more time. That could work. It could work, but I don't know with the, possible real issues with Wardlow and MJF.
This is a good point.
Yeah, you have a whole other issue right there.
Yeah,
a whole nother issue right there.
Whole other bag of snakes. At this point, we've got to move on to Tony Khan. At this point,
just one point to make to that: the Bucks breaking into the locker room to confront CM Punk, attack, whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
just imagine at your job. The EVPs of the company you work for bust into the break room to try and whoop your ass. Guess what happened? Guess what's going to happen if they tried that on me?
The title strip.
I'm going to own the company. This kind of stuff is not acceptable for people of that position in the outside world.
No.
It should not be acceptable here either. I know it's wrestling, but if they're in that position of power, I'm sorry. If the statements are true, if this is exactly what happened, they have to be stripped of that at this point. You cannot act this way. Like, you just can't expect things to be all rainbows and sunshine.
No. At this point, the Bucks and Kenny have absolutely no business being EVPs whatsoever, because they clearly are not professional enough to do that job. That there's no way that anyone in any company in any walk of life would accept that kind of behavior from their employers, or in any walk of life. It's just absolutely absurd. And speaking of employers, so Tony Khan thought it'd be a wise idea after CM Punk had his straw breaking the camel's back moment at the press conference to sit there for a preceding further half an hour and carry on with the press conference, as opposed to going backstage, talking to Punk and handling this immediately, which it probably needed to be done. Do we think this was a wise idea from Tony just to keep face of the company? Or are you on board with me and thinking the man's an idiot and should have handled this immediately?
I've claimed him to be an idiot for quite some time, and I'm not going to change my opinion of him now. I did give him props for the way he handled the MJF returning situation. I thought it was done great.
Yep. But
then he completely overshadowed that by being a complete idiot at this media scrum. Again, I'm going to say this just if it's real, because, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but I want to make sure we touch on that. If this is real.
That's the thing I was going to bring up in a minute. Was we've all been worked thousands of times by professional wrestling companies.
It's in the business.
Punk is one of the best talkers we've ever had for being believable and convincing. And a little bit of truth inside a promo always makes that promo a little bit better. Is there any chance, do you think, Maddie, that this is a story, that this is a plan, and that this is somehow going to revolve the next 6 months of AEW television as if it's always been meant to happen?
We just had it happen with MJF. AEW seems to be the land where they like to bring reality into story. And I'm roughly 60% work, 40% shoot at this point. Because just the way that everything happened. And you're meaning to tell me that a grown man bit another grown man in front of a bunch of other grown men. That kind of seems...
If he was in a headlock, I could see him biting somebody.
Yeah. Honestly, the one that surprises me is Christopher Daniels.
It's Pat Buck for me. What the fuck was he doing?
Well, from what reports have said, by the sounds of it, it's all the people that were in the room where the fight happened have been suspended until the investigation's been done, which, from a business standpoint, is the right thing to do. If you're not sure who was involved, you suspend everybody until the facts are sorted, and then you bring everybody back. But if this is real, Jimmy, if this is real, God help us. Do you see Punk leaving? Because if he does, that is a blow I don't think AEW can take very easily.
I just don't know if he leaves. Like, I don't know. I assume he doesn't need to be there. I'm just of that assumption. I think he was smart enough with his money, and he's had outside ventures where he's been able to make money. I don't think he needs to be there. I think he really wanted to be there.
Yeah.
And if this is real, I think that might make him just be like, yo, I don't need this shit. But at the same time, he did seem very happy to be there up until recently. He's 60-40. I'm about 70-30, but I'm of the 70% that this is real. This isn't a work. But the 30% of me that thinks it's a work, I just place pieces. I look back and I look at pieces of things. During the program with MJF pointed to the fact that once something doesn't go your way, Once you get that one thing that just pisses you off, we're going to see the Punk of old return, and you're going to take your ball and you're going to go home. So it's like he foreshadowed something like this happening months ago. I always thought the whole storyline between him and MJF was once MJF came back from this leave of absence, it was to prove that he was not CM Punk. He was going to return. The fans were going to praise him as the hero, and Punk would be the villain as MJF. And based on how the end of the show went, that's kind of how it seemed like it was going.
Yeah, the crowd were solidly behind Max.
Albeit it was his return, I expect him to get that response. I don't think it's because Chicago loves him more than CM Punk or anything. Because a few people have tried to push that, and I'm like, I don't think that's the case. They're just really excited to see MJF back because it's needed.
Yeah.
And then when CM Punk was out and he was doing the things for the Comic-Con with the rest of the AEW talent, there was an interview he did with Jade Cargill in which he talked about taking heat. He goes, I'll say these things, I'll do these things, because at the end of the day, I know there are people who can't take it and there are people who can. I can take it. It doesn't bother me. So he can play this villain, and if they're going on the borderline of reality and work, he knew this. he knew this backlash was coming. So if he's able to take it, and he's referencing that weeks before this is happening, I look at those things and I can't ignore them. But a lot of this just seems way too real. Like it just seems too real to me for it to be a work. I'm hoping it's a work.
I'm hoping it's a work. I think we're all hoping it's a work.
I will say the part of me that feels so real about it, not once did he say Cabana. It was Scott Colton every time it was being brought up. You felt disdain when he was talking about it.
Yeah.
I think it's a large case of the straw that broke the camel's back. I think CM Punk is a very outspoken, level-headed, but at the end of the day, long-standing professional wrestler. He's been in the business for years. He knows how it works. And if he's come into a company where he expected sunshine and rainbows and all he's got is dog shit and rain clouds, then I'd be pissed off too. And as you say,
the honeymoon phase is over.
Yeah, if he's turned around, and I mean, if you go back further, after the Hangman Page stuff, the Bucks went online and basically tried to bury Punk.
Oh, I didn't see that. What happened here? I
don't know, but this is Punk. The Punk referenced it during his rant. He said what EVP should do is try and level things out and sort it out, but instead they go online and try and bury their top babyface.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? If that's true, that's another case of the Young Bucks being unprofessional little shits. Right? Like, if that is true, you don't do that. You handle it behind doors. It's a business. Regardless what anybody looks at it as, wrestling is a business. It's one of the biggest businesses in the world for money. You got to handle yourself like a professional if you're in the role of an EVP. I don't believe that what Punk said should have been said when he said it. I'm not going to say he should, but he didn't tell any lies. And if he's already tried to handle this on a professional level, as you said before, Jimmy, what the hell else is he supposed to do?
He's not going to just sit there and take it. Like, that's not who he is.
No.
And again, that's why I referenced the Cody Rhodes stuff, because I don't think he's the kind of person that's going to sit there and take it either. You just have completely different. You have two people who are going to handle it different ways. Cody Rhodes, the more professional. I'm going to just go ahead, do my thing, and hurt you guys with the other company. And then CM Punk's like, you know what? No, I'm just going to blast your ass because I don't care. I don't need this, and this is how it's going to be. The hypocrisy of this is what makes it so hard. Like, it's so funny to me. Just every bit of the hypocrisy here is just mind blowing. Because again, I can sit here and tell you as a Punk fan, as I said before, I don't think he's 100% in the right here. But I look at other instances that people are trying to use to make Punk look like the even more of a bad guy, or to justify why he should be treated a certain way. And one of the ones I saw was the Eddie Kingston, Sammy Guevara situation. And I talked about this before when I was talking about CM Punk and Hangman. But if the Young Bucks, if you're not going to suspend Punk for what he said at the media scrum, suspending him for being approached in a hostile manner in his own locker room after the door was kicked down. How do you justify that?
Yeah.
How do you justify it, man?
The guy was assaulted.
Defended himself.
Defended himself, and now you're telling me he's going to get suspended.
And everyone's like, well, why didn't he open the door when they knocked? Well, if he thought it was a hostile situation and
I wouldn't open the door.
Wife was in there with a broken leg watching his dog, I wouldn't open the door either. I'm not bringing her into this crap. She has nothing to do with it. Like that's a smart thing to do, in my opinion. Call me a fanboy. I don't care. That just seems like the smart thing to do here. Man, I just can't wrap my head around the amount of hypocrisy in this whole situation, man. It's just
it's a little bit ridiculous. Like, that's the one thing we've got to take away from this whole thing is situations like this shouldn't happen. Like, this shouldn't have got, if this is real, still prefacing this with if this is real, this situation, just like the MJF situation, should never have reached to this boiling point. This could have been handled weeks, months ago if this had been going on for so long. And it clearly wasn't handled. And I think it was a case of that Colt Cabana question, which was completely inappropriate and unnecessary to ask at the time, has just set him off.
Just to touch on that as well, apparently I've heard from I've read from 3 people who were in that room that all said there wasn't a question asked about Colt Cabana. There was a guy who was friends with Colt that was in there, and I guess he made some kind of notion to Punk.
He brought up the fact that he did improv with Scott Colton.
Okay, and then it kind of just blew up from there.
Yeah,
the whole Colt Cabana thing is just weird to me in general. Like, because if he wasn't asked about it, I don't really know why it got brought up and all that stuff. But
I've had the chance to actually catch the beginning of that at least 3 times. And it's right before like Punk actually comes on screen.
Yeah.
You hear him say, "You did improv," and then the guy was like, "Yeah," and then he said that he did it with Scott Colton. Punk asked, "Do you consider yourself friends with Scott Colton?"
Mm-hmm.
Something to the terms of, "I'm not really friends with him," and Punk's like, "Oh, you're not friends with him? Well, then that makes fucking 2 of us." And that's where it continued from. Yeah. I think that just like lit the fuse.
No,
it's just him being brought up. The fact that he was brought up in conversation, which didn't need to happen.
With the whole nonsense with the EVPs and the Hangman thing, if Punk is of the belief that they leaked those bullshit stories to the press to paint him in a bad picture in defense of their friend, it kind of coincides. And I tried to paint that picture with the thing I wrote. But like. I guess I kind of get the Colt Cabana thing, but man, it just seems like to see someone who did improv with Colt Cabana and just let it blow up into what it did, and then just
escalate
and leads to the blaze that leads to the blaze that's right behind us right now.
That's so wild. That is just so wild, man.
No, it's insane. Like, there's no way in hell this should have, as I've said, this should have ever got this far. It doesn't make any sense that it was allowed to go this far. And the simple fact is we can blame, and I'm going to say it, it's Tony Khan's fault. He is in charge of that company. Tony Khan is the guy who says yes, he says no, he hires people, he fires people, he deals with everybody. If he couldn't have handled this professionally, then he shouldn't be doing his job. Because he should never have allowed this to go as far as it did. He should have got up from that table at the press conference, said, "Excuse me, I'm going to get a coffee. I'll be back in a minute. Let Swerve and Keith Lee do their thing, and then go and handle it." But
they could have done that part without him, because
Tony Khan was kind of hindering
that. Tony Khan was kind of hindering their post-match anyway.
So another thing to bring up with the EVPs and the backstage politics and toxicity and Tony Khan and all that. Since we're on the subject of Tony Khan here, we could bring up another former talent that was in AEW, Big Swole. One of the things she talked about was how she felt like things just weren't very fair backstage because of politics. Who's running the politics here? I'll say it because I don't care, because I'm dead set on this. Bucks and Kenny Omega as EVPs are a big damn issue. And it's just time and time again showing up. this Hangman Page stuff that they're just so adamant to put on there and make it the main event of every damn show, even though they're just literally showing up at the top of a ramp and just overshadowing the world title program, everything. That kind of stuff needs to stop. You have the stuff with Cody Rhodes that led to Cody Rhodes leaving, which it's been a free fall since he left. I think a lot of people agree with that, especially the TNT title picture, which I think Cody had his hands in 100% because it's night and day difference since he left.
Completely.
And now you have this stuff with Punk. You had Tony Khan going publicly on Twitter, just blasting a talent just because she felt the need to like air her grievances. And not even in a terrible way. It was in an interview in which she was asked a question and she answered it honestly, and she was attacked for it. There is a reoccurring thing going on right here that is painting a picture for people to look at, and they're ignoring it. Again, it makes it so easy to just say, he's the bad guy because we called him the bad guy before. And it's like, open your freaking eyeballs, people.
If, as the old phrase goes, if you want to find truth in history, read 10 books on the same subject, find the one common denominator in each book, and that's the truth. The only common denominator in this situation is the EVPs. And it has been the common denominator for 2 years now. Right? And the fact that they are, I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't hate the Bucks like you hate the Bucks, Jimmy. I
actually like the Bucks.
I never have. I enjoy their work. I enjoy their work. They're both family men. Good on them. They do what they do. But this is a job they're not ready for. They're not prepared for. They don't know what they're doing.
And the same goes for Kenny as well.
More so for Kenny Omega, if I'm afraid, in my opinion. Because
Kenny
is less mature.
To build themselves up on their own to the indie circuits by promoting themselves in a way that we have never seen before. Kenny Omega did it in a completely different way, just by wrestling in New Japan and being like, yo, he's fucking incredible. So I give the Bucks a little bit more credit than Kenny Omega when it comes to like who has the right to, I guess, be an EVP here.
Yeah.
But again, all that is just thrown right out the window when they act like that, if they did. Because you can't. You just can't. Because now a talent is looking at this being like, I guess I better shut up. I can't act. I can't do anything because if I do, they're going to do this. And then I'm going to be the one that gets punished while they just get a little slap on the wrist. Like,
I mean, with their suspensions in mind, it's the AEW roster has always been called bloated for the past few months. It's very bloated. On a positive standpoint, if this is real,
Jimmy almost burnt water out of his nose. Russ.
Oh man!
There.
Oh man! Woo! Thank you, Russ. That was good.
I believe your missus is in the comments there, Jim.
Yeah, they're all just quiet quitting.
Yeah. But no, do you believe that there could be a silver lining for the rest of the roster out of this? If they are suspended, and they are suspended for a certain period of time, they're going to have to fill the holes on TV with other people. Right? Do you think anybody could possibly, at least on the rest of the roster, come out of this with a positive, getting more TV time?
Until they come back. Because think about this. I want you both to give me one name that you feel like could have stepped up and probably should have been given the spot to step up during Kenny Omega's absence. Both of you, just give me a name that you think should have gotten that opportunity.
Malachi Black.
Ricky Starks.
Okay. Did either one of them get that opportunity when Kenny was gone?
No.
So why, if it didn't happen then, I'm damn sure not going to believe it now. And when the Bucks were tag champs, we talk about this all the time. They're tag champs. They get the opportunity. They're not tag champs. Guess what? The tag champs are not getting the opportunity because the Young Bucks are still there to just rake it all in, baby. And it's like, so I would love if they were, because I only see the suspension being 1-2 weeks tops for these guys. But if it was an extended, I would love for people to get the opportunity here. It's just not going to happen. And if it does, it'll literally be until those guys come back, and then they'll brush them aside and make the room for these guys who, I get it, they're very talented. As much as I hate the Bucks, I know they are very talented and people want to see them. So I'm not going to sit there and get them off my TV. There are people who want to see them. Cool. I get it. I just won't pay attention. But when these guys are gone and you've done what you're doing, we saw this is the biggest glaring comparison to WCW I can make here.
Yeah.
Because this is what the NWO did.
Yeah.
They were just taking all the spotlight, and these people weren't rising up. And then when the NWO was done and they couldn't do anything, guess what? WCW faltered because it doesn't matter how good. I don't care if Vince McMahon came in at that point. Nothing was saving it because there was no meat on the bone anymore.
No,
and
to death.
That's just one more glaring problem to me with the EVP situation. It's just nonsense.
I said to Jimmy before we went on air that I see this as the most WCW thing they've ever done. Like, as far as the inmates running the asylum goes.
You can't argue it.
No, it's just... I don't want to use the word pathetic, but it is.
You can.
It's pathetic. Right? It's legitimately pathetic. These are grown-ass men. Signed. Somebody said something that hurt your feelings. You're an EVP. Handle it like an EVP. Don't kick a man's door down and swing at him. And another thing, CM Punk may have got his ass handed to him in the UFC, but I'm pretty sure little tiny Matt Jackson isn't going to be able to do anything to Phil Brooks. Right? What was he thinking? You're swinging on a guy who's probably going to beat 7 shades out of you if it wasn't for the fact that he's just wrestled John Moxley for 20 minutes and is feeling kind of sore.
They had Punk outnumbered, so I'm sure that had a little bit to do with it as well.
It's also rumored that Punk injured his tricep during the scuffle backstage. And that's even more of the case of your EVP just hurt one of your top talents in a backstage scuffle.
The top
that
guy.
Is so bad against
That's Punk's fault. He shouldn't have swung on him.
Shouldn't have defended himself. Shouldn't have defended himself.
Yeah. To touch on that, if Punk is injured, I wouldn't be surprised if they're saying it happened in the backstage thing, but it didn't. Because when he took that suicide dive during the match, from that moment on, he was grabbing his elbow literally the rest of the match.
Yeah, literally.
And I was like, oh, here we go again. So when he was out at the media and nothing was touched on it, he didn't talk about it or anything, I was like, okay, maybe we're good. But then they said that he might have tore his tricep in the fight or whatever.
Now,
like, son of a...
Now, Jimmy, now that you bring that up, one more thing that we didn't bring up in the media about the media call, specifically with Punk, was when he brought up Adam Cole. And he said that he doesn't care if he can wrestle for however many years or if he's the next damn Scott Hall. He wants him to be healthy.
Yeah.
And that's a case of CM Punk seeing someone just get worked to the ground and go, hey, you guys need to keep an eye on this. Make sure he's healthy. Make sure your people are taken care of. That might be another thing that broke his back as well.
What an asshole to do that, right?
Yeah, I know, right? What a dick to stand up for someone
and say that I want him to be healthy and happy when he's come back. No, right?
Yeah, what a sweetheart.
Yeah. Well, what kind of asshole calls somebody a sweetheart and puts their health above their career?
Yeah.
Jesus.
What a scumbag.
Jeez.
It's ridiculous. So, gents, we've been going for 40 minutes now. I think we've just about covered everything we can cover. Final thoughts?
Whew. Bro, I for the people watching who tune in for the AEW recap, tonight's my final AEW recap I'm doing for a while. And this shit is a big reason why. Like, this really killed my joy for AEW. If I'm worked, bro, all the power to them. I love it, and I'll go right back to watching them like I have been because, again, I want them to succeed, and I enjoy most of what they do. But, man, I can't just – it's hard to get invested in this show at this point with the decline of it at first, but now you're having this shit as well. I've been down this road before, and it literally broke my heart as a kid to watch it happen. Yeah. I'm not doing it again.
No, that's the thing.
I hope it gets righted. I really do. And that's not even like, don't fire. If they fire Punk because they feel like they need to do it, whatever, do what you do, still fix your damn problems. Like, the Punk thing isn't making me not tune in. And I know that there are people fanboy. No, it's not Punk. It's literally just how everything is just falling around. The timing of this is so fucking horrible.
Yeah.
Hey, do they get a TV deal at that? Like, they'll get a TV.
Oh shit! I didn't even think about that.
Do you think their TV deal just took a significant hit because of this?
Very good chance.
Like,
There's a very good chance I didn't even think about bringing that up. No,
and do we want to touch on Tony's comments about WWE too? I just went off the fucking wall with
it. So Tony accused WWE. I wouldn't say accused. He basically went on a rant saying something about how do I feel about the competition tonight? WWE had that weekend planned since before January of this year.
Yep.
Clash at the Castle was almost set in stone.
Okay.
Since before December.
I'll touch on this though. When I guess Vince McMahon was asked about running a show on Labor Day weekend in an interview or something like that, and he says it'll never work. And then AEW did it last year and it worked. So he took that as like, oh well, it worked for us, so they're copying us. Everybody copies everybody. I'm tired of hearing someone accuse one person of doing it when they both do it. You can watch a lot of AEW programming and see shit that we watch.
AEW Dynamite literally started on a Wednesday.
Yeah. So people steal from each other all the time. And the fact that this man has, since day one, had no issue taking shots at WWE, having his talent take shots at WWE. And WWE's taken a few, but the ratio is pretty significant.
Yeah, it is.
And then for WWE and Triple H, because Triple H is definitely being petty, and he's definitely going to come with a vengeance after the shit with NXT. And go ahead,
as proven in the interview he did. Yeah, they beat a developmental. Good job.
Yeah, and we all know. But he's going to come and he's going to swing for the fences, and he's coming with vengeance, 100%. And he should, because for the existence of AEW, they've been doing the same.
Bloody right, they have.
And so for them to finally take a shot back, and now everything is going good for WWE and shit's falling around for AEW, for Tony Khan to get in his fucking feelings and be like, I would have worked with them, but not after the way they've treated me. Bro?
Treated you what?
Bro?
Arrogant son of a bitch.
And the people bring up contract tampering as if Keith Lee wasn't contacted 2 days into his 90-day
no compete clause.
That's tampering. Pat Buck had a job in AEW less than a week after he left WWE. Tampering. Jeff Hardy. Tampering.
Right.
Like, don't give me this shit, people. Like, you hate WWE. I know these are the people that just hate WWE and they're doing it just. Oh, and it's so annoying. But it's on both sides. I won't say that's not. But the way Tony is reacting, and maybe even the VPs, it just seems like it's very similar to how their fan base on the internet acts. Like, and you can't run a business that way, man.
No.
Man.
No. On another point, which I've only just realized, the one person I kind of feel sorry for in this whole situation is Jon Moxley.
Yeah.
Because he has done a fantastic job this last year. Like, arguably the wrestler of the year, carried the company again when it fell off, did a fantastic title reign, then does the job, hands the belt over, and then this happens.
I've always said I think Jon Moxley is the MVP of AEW.
Yeah.
Since the day he arrived, he is the MVP. He is the heart and soul. He may not be the biggest draw. He's one of the biggest draws. He's the most reliable guy you got.
Yeah.
He is their guy.
Problems with him.
No, never any problems with him. No. But anyway, Matty, final thoughts?
Let's just hope we get some water to put out this fire soon, because I want to see AEW succeed. Like I said, whenever AEW started, more wrestling means more opportunities. More opportunities means more eyes on the product of pro wrestling. Pro wrestling needs this. And if AEW falls, that's just, in my eyes, that's a way of the media seeing, oh, maybe this uprise, didn't mean anything really. And that, in all honesty, is bad for pro wrestling.
Look at the indies before AEW and look at the indies after AEW.
100%.
Same thing NXT UK did to our indie scene over here. It's the exact same thing. They killed it. I mean, it's difficult to put everything in a nutshell in this situation, but like you said before, you and I grew up, Jimmy, watching WCW, and as you say, it broke your heart. It killed me when I was a kid.
I went on a 5-year break.
Yeah, I stopped watching wrestling in 2001 and started watching wrestling again in 2006. No, 2005.
Yeah, so I stopped in 2003. I stayed around for Stone Cold, and then eventually it literally was just like, I can't anymore. He was the one thing that held on. But strangely enough, you and me, same person that brought us back into it,
CM Punk.
How freaking wild is that, man?
It's insane.
That is wild.
And the fact that now CM Punk is at the epicenter of a situation that can, quite frankly, just like you, stop me watching AEW. Because I love that company. I love everything they do. I'm a fan of everything they do. I like the fact that they present.
To succeed.
I enjoy the very indie-rific feel that AEW has. It's an indie with money, and I like that.
I like that it's different.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I watch the AEW, and I watch 2 shows a week. That's what I got time for. And if I do, I'll watch others. But I choose AEW over SmackDown and NXT for the simple fact it's different. It gives me an alternative. Like, I want it to stay. Like, man,
I want it to stay.
Sucks,
but
bro.
This is, I would say, probably the biggest shot they're going to take since Cody left.
This is bigger than Cody to me.
I'd agree with you on that, Jim. But anyway, gents, I think that's enough from us for the day. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we do here at WrestleBuddy, if you enjoy the content we'll put out, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's free, it helps us out, and it's the only way the YouTube algorithm really knows we exist. Right, gents. Matty, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay healthy, stay hydrated. Keep a bucket of water next to you because there's fire coming. This is where we wave. Bye.